Hi, I'm Dr. Amna Shabir, and I want to start with a question. Have you ever sat in a leadership meeting, looked around the room, and thought, what am I doing here? Everyone else actually knows what they're doing. I'm just faking it. Or landed a major accomplishment and immediately thought, that was luck. I just happened to be in the right place at the right time. Or received praise and felt your stomach drop because you're terrified someone's going to realize you're not as competent as they think you are. If any of that sounds familiar, you're experiencing what's commonly called imposter syndrome. And if you're a perfectionist, it's not just imposter feelings, it's imposter feelings on steroids. Today, I'm going to walk you through what this actually is, why perfectionists experience it more intensely, and the one simple step you can take the next time these feelings creep in. Let's begin. First, a quick note on language. I don't like calling this imposter syndrome. I feel like this term pathologizes a very human experience. It's not like we have a blood test for imposter syndrome and the lab result says, congratulations, you have it or you don't. Our words matter, so I prefer to use the term imposterism because it's a pattern, not a pathology. Imposterism was first identified by psychologists Pauline Clance and Suzanne Imes in 1978. They described it as a psychological pattern where high-achieving individuals doubt their accomplishments and have a persistent fear of being exposed as a fraud, despite clear evidence of their competence. Here's what the research shows. 70% of people experience imposterism at some point in their lives. 70%. 7 out of 10, including some of the most successful people you know, felt like frauds. I often say this, if you feel like you have imposter syndrome, congratulations, you're not a psychopath. Because people with actual pathological narcissism or psychopathy don't question their competence. They don't worry about whether they deserve to be in the room. The fact that you do, that's evidence of self-awareness, empathy, and humility. But it gets more specific. High achievers are more likely to experience imposterism than the general population. Why? Because the higher you climb, the more visible you become. The more visible you are, the more scrutiny you perceive. And the more scrutiny you perceive, the more opportunities your brain has to tell you you don't belong here. And if you're a perfectionist, you're especially vulnerable. Research published in the Journal of Personality Assessment shows that perfectionists are more likely to attribute their success to external factors like luck, timing, who they knew, good fortune, instead of their own competence, effort, and skill. So when you achieve something, instead of thinking, I worked hard and earned this, you think, I got lucky. Anyone could have done this. They just haven't figured out I'm a fraud yet. This is, again, not a character flaw or disease, a syndrome. It's a pattern, and you're not alone in experiencing it. Let's talk about perfectionism amplifying imposterism. And it doesn't matter where I'm giving it, whether I'm talking to physicians, whether I'm talking to entrepreneurs, whether I'm talking to lawyers, whether I'm talking to other high achievers, the question about perfectionism and imposterism will always show up. So I wanted to specifically address it today. Let me explain why perfectionism and imposterism are so intertwined. Perfectionists operate from deficit thinking, the belief that you're fundamentally lacking, flawed, or not enough. So when you succeed, your brain doesn't register it as evidence of your competence. Instead, it scans for all the ways you could have done better, all the mistakes you made along the way, all the gaps between your performance and the impossible standard that you've set for yourself mentally. And because nothing ever feels good enough, you can't internalize your wins. You dismiss them, you minimize them, you attribute them to external factors. This is called external attribution bias. It's one of the hallmarks of imposterism and perfectionists. Here's an example. You've given a presentation, it goes well, people congratulate you, but instead of thinking, I prepared thoroughly and I delivered this well, you think, the slides carried me, they're just being nice, I got lucky with the questions. If they truly knew how nervous I was, they would realize I have no idea what I'm doing. And trust me, I've pretty much had every one of those thoughts that I just shared with you. Your brain literally cannot accept the evidence of your competence. And over time, this creates a cycle. Achieve, dismiss, feel like a fraud, work harder to prove yourself, achieve, dismiss, repeat. Sounds exhausting, right? Now let's talk about what can you actually do about it. And I'm going to give you one simple evidence-based tool to interrupt this pattern. It's called the evidence log. Here's how it works. The next time you feel like a fraud, I want you to ask yourself one question. What is the objective evidence that I'm competent in this area? Not your feelings, not what you think other people think, because remember, you're not a mind reader. Active evidence. For example, I was hired for this role. I have successfully completed projects like this before. I have a degree, certification, or training in this area. People have sought out my expertise multiple times. I solved a problem that others couldn't solve. Any one of these. So find that objective evidence and write it down. You can write 3 to 5 pieces. Keep writing. If more is coming, just keep accumulating that evidence. Now, your brain will resist this, right? It will say things like, yeah, but that doesn't count because it's going to give you all the excuses and reasons. I want you to notice that voice. That's your imposterism talking, but I want you to go ahead and write anyways. Your job isn't to believe this evidence. Your job is right now to just collect it and acknowledge that it exists, right? You don't have to believe it all the way, but it exists, so write it down. Imposterism thrives in the absence of data, and when you bring data into the room, it sort of loses or weakens its power. Now, these feelings of imposterism don't just disappear overnight. The imposter doesn't just go away. It doesn't evaporate. It's sort of what I call shape shifts. You might stop feeling like a fraud in one area and then feel like a fraud in a new area as you grow. And that's normal. That's normal because you, as a high achiever, are constantly growing and it's part of being human. You're not a robot. But what changes is your relationship is to those feelings. Instead of believing them as a truth, you can start recognizing them as a pattern, a predictable response that your nervous system has learned over time, and a pattern can be interrupted. I noticed this myself. So I will tell you, when I started as an entrepreneur, I had a lot of imposterism, and I still continue to, depending on the space and the room I find myself in, it'll like show up. But as that got better, I continue to find different levels of feeling like an imposter when it comes to motherhood. I thought I figured out the preschool business, but then my children moved to elementary school, and now we're talking actively about what middle school will look like. And I feel every time I'm having this conversation, now it's crazy how much of an imposter I feel when I'm talking about that. And I've noticed this pattern so I can catch myself. I can look at the evidence that's there and just recognize there is no one certification that I can take or a degree that I can hold that will certify me as a mother who knows everything. The only way I'm actually going to feel better is actually by being a mother. I also want to address something important because imposterism isn't just about perfectionism. It is also rooted in your unique story, your culture, your upbringing, your identity, your career path. It's not that one statement or one way to address it is just going to like whitewash everything. It's not that the way you are experiencing imposterism is the same as I'm experiencing imposterism. If you're from a marginalized or underrepresented background, imposterism just comes in a whole different flavor. You're not just battling your own internal doubt, you're navigating systems that weren't built for you. Rooms where you're often the only one who looks like you, and the weight of representation is quite real. If you're a woman in leadership, you've likely internalized messages that you need to be twice as good to be seen as half as competent. If you're an immigrant or first generation professional, you might carry the pressure of honoring your family's sacrifice while constantly questioning whether you deserve to be here. If you've experienced trauma, parentification, or instability growing up, you learned early that your safety depended on being perfect, invisible, or endlessly accommodating. Your imposterism isn't just in your head, it's shaped by the systems, cultures, and experiences you've navigated. And that's why this work is so personal. There's no one size fits all solution. The tools that help you embody confidence need to be tailored to your nervous system, your story, your unique context. And that's the work I do with my one on one clients. We dig into why you feel like you're faking it, we unpack the roots, and we build customized practical tools that will include somatic, cognitive, behavioral, so you can step into your competence without this constant feeling of self doubt. So let's recap what we covered today. Imposterism is common. 70% of people experience it. You're not broken. In fact, if you feel like an imposter, congratulations, you are not a psychopath. Perfectionism amplifies imposterism because perfectionists attribute success to external factors instead of their own competence. And one simple step that I shared on how you can start addressing this right now is the evidence log. Write down 3 to 5 pieces of evidence. That's it. That's your tool. The next time imposter feelings creep in, you have something concrete to interrupt that pattern. Remember, you earned your spot, you belong here, you matter. If you want deeper support with this, I would love to work with you. I offer a limited numbers of one-on-one complimentary strategy sessions that are available every quarter. Let's dig into your unique story, unpack the roots of your imposterism, and build tools that actually work for you. Until next time, take care of yourself. You're worth it. You might believe you don't have the time or energy to focus on yourself, but this is exactly the right time to get serious about your well-being. You don't have to do it all alone. I'm here to help. If you enjoyed this video and are ready to take the next step, head over to dramnashabir.com where you'll find free resources you can access right away. The website link is below. Let's get started on your path to thriving.